Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, it's going to be my Week 15 NFL Power Rankings. If this is your first time checking out my Power Rankings, what I do is I look at the bottom 3 teams, and then of course we're going to go over the top 10 teams. There is a lot to go over in this video, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. Starting off with the bottom 3 teams, and third from the bottom, which would be 30th overall in the NFL, I have the Indianapolis Colts. They're 4-8-1 on the year. 3 losses in a row. They actually have the second worst point differential in the NFL. Matt Ryan has been a complete disaster for the Colts. They got rid of their head coach mid-season. They questionably brought in Jeff Saturday as the interim coach, and I think it's really showing that he's never been a head coach at any level before, because some of the decisions being made by the Colts are not great. They are going to have a very, very interesting offseason ahead of them, but they should have a top draft pick to make up for that. So I guess the Colts could rebound quickly because they do have some decent players on their roster. Now, coming in at number 31 overall, second from the bottom, we're going to have the Chicago Bears at 3-10 on the year. Now, if you looked at the Bears after week 7, they were 3-4, and the Bears were definitely, and they are, in a rebuilding mode. But 3-4, you're thinking, damn, that's pretty good. They've actually gone on to lose 6 in a row. Justin Fields has been iffy throwing the ball. Now, let's give credit where it's due. He's been really, really good running the ball and a playmaker in that regard. But overall, when you look at Justin Fields, 26th in quarterback rating, 29th in completion percentage. Now, look, granted, they don't have the best weapons around him, but they do have some players there. Cole Kmet at tight end. They brought in Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney. They have some guys there. Now, look, in the offseason, they're going to need to improve the offensive line, get some more weapons, and I don't think Justin Fields is a bust yet by any means, but he is going to have to work on his decision making. Against Green Bay towards the end of the game, 2 interceptions a couple weeks ago. Yikes. They're coming off a bye week, so let's see how he responds to finish off this year. Now, coming in at number 32, and this isn't going to be any surprise to anyone, it's going to be the I'm just kidding. It's going to be the Houston Texans at 1-11-1. They've lost 8 games in a row. Now, let's give credit where it's due, just like we did with Justin Fields. With the Houston Texans, they gave Dallas a run for their money, and Dallas are a very good team. But I think what's really going to sum up the Houston Texans season is the score was 23-20. They go for it on 4th and goal from the 2, and that Jeff Driscoll play. The play looked like nobody knew what they were doing, and that kind of basically just sums up the Houston Texans. It's a microcosm of their season, if you will. Just not good enough. They're about 2 years away, but here's the thing. They're going to have the number 1 overall pick. They're going to take Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, whoever they want to take at quarterback. You build a roster around them. That good things can happen in the future for the Houston Texans. Although, personally, I want DeMeco Ryans to stay with the Niners as long as possible. I think it would be a wise decision in the offseason if the Houston Texans were to hire DeMeco Ryans as their head coach. He was drafted in the 2nd round by the Texans all those years ago, had a really good career with the Texans back in the day, so I would think that they should look for a reunion there. But that's going to be my bottom 3 teams. Now, some of the teams who just escaped the bottom 3. I'm looking at you, Denver. Now, look, the reason why Denver were able to get out of the bottom 3 is they played Kansas City tough. They played them really tough. Kansas City were dominating the game, and there was a lot of fight in those Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson probably going to miss the next game, and that might be a good thing. But Denver, watch out, because you're close to the bottom 3. Now, coming up next, it's going to be my top 10 teams in the Week 15 Power Rankings. The top 10 this week was really, really tricky because to me, honestly, after I got to number 8 in my rankings, number 9 and 10, I don't feel great about them, but we're doing the top 10. Now, some of the teams that came a little bit close were the Tennessee Titans, were the Miami Dolphins, but coming in at number 10, I actually have the New York Jets. Now, why the Jets? They've lost a couple of games in a row, but if you look at those games, they lost at Minnesota, they lost at Buffalo, 2 teams teams, spoiler, who are in this top 10, and I think they played them pretty well. One-score games essentially in both of those. Against Buffalo, Mike White gets hurt. Overall, I do like the Jets. They're number 7 ranked defensively in terms of points per game, and they've had those 2 tough losses. I think Mike White is really brought a spark to the offense. You can see guys getting more involved, guys making plays. They're throwing it down the field more. Here's the thing. Can the Jets keep him upright? Losing Mekhi Becton, losing Elijah Vera-Tucker has really hurt their offensive line. But who's really exploded onto the scene, Zonovan Bam Knight, the rookie undrafted running back from North Carolina State, I believe, NC State. He is playing really, really well in the absence of Breece Hall. So overall, you really gotta love what the Jets are doing. And again, the Jets are basically playing with house money. I think if you asked any Jets fan before the year, they would say, oh, if we can win maybe 7-8 games, that would be good. And they're on track to maybe win even 9 games here this season. So I think the Jets have a bright future ahead, but they do need to figure out the quarterback situation moving forward. Now, coming in at number 9, and I have the Washington Commanders at 7-5-1 on the year. Now, the Commanders are actually coming off a bye week, and just before the bye week, they had a tie with the New York Giants. And typically, I don't like to move teams up and down too much on their bye week because, well, they didn't really do anything to show if they were good or bad, but I look at some of the other teams that I wanted to put in this top 10. The Jets, which I do have at 10, they've lost 2 in a row. The Titans lost badly to the Jaguars. The Dolphins have lost 2 in a row. So the Commanders here are actually playing pretty good football in the last couple of months. They've won 6 of 8 of their last 8 games. They've won 6 of them. They, of course, tied with the Giants. They have a big game this weekend against the Giants again. They're basically playing them back-to-back times. If the Commanders can get a win here, they really do have a really good shot at getting into the wild card. Do I think they're going to compete for a Super Bowl? Probably not. Their quarterback situation, Heineke, is okay, but they don't have the elite defense, let's say like the 49ers have. They have good playmakers, but maybe not the playmakers on the same level as the 49ers. So if you're kind of making comparisons there, I think Washington are a good team, but not a great team to compete for a Super Bowl. Now, let's move on to my number 8 team, and that's going to be the Minnesota Vikings, definitely dropping a few places in this week's power rankings. They're 10-3 on the year, but they had a bad loss to the Detroit Lions, and these division games, and the Vikings had a chance to basically lock up the NFC North, and then they can just do whatever they wanted essentially for the last 4 games, but the Lions played them pretty good. And here's the thing with Minnesota. I think they're a good football team. I do think that they are still a Super Bowl contender, but they've had a couple of bad losses in recent weeks. They got blown out by the Cowboys, and then they just lost here to the Detroit Lions. Big thing here is, can they respond after the loss? They have a very easy matchup against the Indianapolis Colts, so you'd like to think that if they are a team who I expect, and I think a lot of people expect, to compete for a Super Bowl, they should really take out the Colts with little to no problems. So we'll see how they respond there. This is going to be a big week for the Vikings, because you always want to go and make your way into the playoffs with a lot of momentum. Now, coming in at number 7 in my power rankings, I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens, 9-4 on the year, and this team just keeps on stacking up wins. Not in the prettiest fashion by any means. They just about beat Denver. They beat Pittsburgh. It wasn't any blowout wins, but here's the thing. They don't have Lamar Jackson out there right now. Tyler Huntley playing good enough. Good to see J.K. Dobbins back out there having some productive games for the Ravens, and their defense is playing at a very good level. So the Ravens, I think they're going to be one of those teams where I think when it comes to the AFC playoff picture, Lamar Jackson will be back. They're going to be a team that I don't think anyone's going to want to play in the AFC in the playoffs. They can just do so many different things. The one thing that the Ravens, though, are really missing is just that legit number 1 wide receiver. Rashad Bateman out for the year. They have obviously some good tight ends in Andrews and Likely. They have some okay receivers kind of backing up Bateman. They brought in Deshaun Jackson. Devin Duvernay's been pretty decent, but overall, I think in the offseason they do need to invest in wide receiver, but the Ravens are always going to be a very tough out. Now, moving on to number 6 in the power rankings, and it will also be another AFC North team. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, also at 9-4. Now, when we look at the Bengals, they've won 5 in a row. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. Something really good too here is their defense has been playing just good enough to really make them, again, legit contenders just like last season. Their defense is ranked 11th in points per game, so really, really solid, but the offense has really taken off yet again. Getting Jamar Chase back is just the biggest boost for that Cincinnati offense. They're able to do offensively, they can run the ball with Mixon. They got Samaje Perine, who's been playing okay, but weapons offensively through the roof. Joe Burrow having a really, really good year. And if you're the Bengals, you have to be feeling good about yourself. But here's the thing. The Ravens actually do hold the tiebreaker in that division. So the Ravens right now are on top. But I do think at the end of it, come week 18, the Bengals will be top of the AFC North. Now, coming up next, guys, it's going to be my top 5 power rankings. So stay tuned. And coming in at number 5, we have the Dallas Cowboys at 10-3 on the year. Now, Dallas, a really, really good football team. Let's talk about some of their stats. Number 3 in defensive points per game allowed. Number 3 in offensive points per game. Number 3 in the NFL in point differential, and all of that makes sense. The offense is playing really good football. The defense, well, up until last Sunday, they were playing really good football, and they have just so many good talented players. Micah Parsons, obviously in the discussion for defensive MVP. DeMarcus Lawrence, a lot of good linebackers. Their DBs are playing well too. Dan Quinn doing a good job in Dallas with that defense, but the offense has been stepping up as well, and they just added T.Y. Hilton. I know there were talks about OBJ. That's not going to happen now. T.Y. Hilton, I think, is a really good veteran presence. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, they're both still very young receivers, growing and developing into the players they're going to be. But having the veteran presence of a guy like T.Y. Hilton, I think, could be a huge boost for this Cowboys offense, and their offensive line is really good, and it's getting more healthy. But here's the reason why they're only number 5, is they just about beat the Houston Texans, the team who's by far the worst in the NFL. So that's a little bit of cause for concern. Dallas next Sunday, they're going to want to come out and get a big win, stamp their authority again, and really build momentum into the playoffs. Now coming in at number 4, and it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, 9-4 on the year. We actually have the longest win streak in the NFL going, 6 wins in a row. The defense is playing by far the best in the NFL. Any meaningful statistical category, the Niners defense is either first or they're right there. And they just completely shut down Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. 35-7 win. And this defense, I just can't speak highly enough of it. But let's also go on to the offensive side of the ball. Brock Purdy, really, really good and effective in his first start. Efficient with the ball. Also throwing some deep passes. The touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey, really impressive, to Brandon Ayuk. And then that forces defenses to have to respect that aspect of the game. And then that opens up holes for Christian McCaffrey, also for Jordan Mason, who looked really, really good on Sunday as well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Deebo Samuel gets hurt, but he will be back for the playoffs. And this 49ers team, a lot of momentum, and they have a big game Thursday night to basically wrap up the NFC West against Seattle in Seattle. Let's see how Brock Purdy looks on the road in a hostile environment. I think he's up to the challenge, but really excited to see what happens there. Now, looking at number 3, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. 10-3 on the year. Number 1 offense in terms of yards per game. Number 2 points per game. The one question though, and I've been saying it for weeks on end, their defense has been a little bit iffy. And on Sunday, they gave up 28 points to Denver, which you're thinking, okay, maybe that's not awful. But Denver have been nearly a historically bad offense this year. They're not even scoring 15 points per game, and they basically put up double that on this Chiefs defense. So the Chiefs really need to figure that out, because when it comes to playoff time, when they have to maybe travel to Buffalo or they have to take on Cincinnati, who can put up points, that's where they can get in trouble, and then their season could come to a screeching halt, just like it did last year in the AFC Championship game. Number 2 now in my power rankings, the Buffalo Bills, 10-3 on the year. They had a really, really solid win over the New York Jets. The defense looked really good. The offense had a little bit of tough sledding going, but the Jets defense is no joke. But the Bills, now they're really playing good football. Josh Allen has been playing a lot better in recent weeks. He did have a rough stretch there, seems to have got past that. And the Buffalo Bills heading in to the end of the season with a lot of momentum. They should be the number 1 seed in the AFC when it's all said and done. And no team is going to want to go into Buffalo in January, in February. That's going to be a really, really tough ask for any team to do that and get a win. So the Bills, to me, after the number 1 team, which I think we all know who that's going to be, just a complete team. Great defense, great offense, complimentary football. Can't ask for much more than that. And of course, now coming in at number 1 in my power rankings, no change from last week, that's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just dominated their division rival, the New York Giants, in New York. Now, say what you want about the Giants. Maybe, they're overproducing this year. Maybe they're kind of punching above their weight this year in terms of their record. But still, a division game, teams very familiar with one another, to go into their stadium and just blow them out, that's really impressive. Now, let's look at some of these numbers here for the Philadelphia Eagles. On the season, plus 14 in turnovers, easily number 1 in the NFL. Number 7 in terms of defensive points per game. Number 1 offensively in terms of points per game. They've taken over Kansas City. They've taken over Buffalo. The Philadelphia Eagles actually have the number 1 offense in terms of scoring, and they just have so many weapons. They're playing really, really good football. They have a great defense, and a defense that causes turnovers, offense that can put up points and put up points quickly. And that's always a big recipe for success. If your defense can play stout defense and turn the ball over, as well as just having an elite offense, Jalen Hurts playing really good football too, that makes them the best team in the NFL in terms of my eyes. But I think in the NFC, the Cowboys and the 49ers really could give them a run for their money. Well, there you have it, guys. That is going to be my Week 15 NFL Power Rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love the discussions when it comes to the Power Rankings video. Really, really good to see. And also, thank you so much for all the support on the recent streams, the live streams over the weekend and Monday Night Football. A lot of people in there, a lot of support, likes, subscriptions, all the donations, greatly appreciated. And we're going to see you guys on Thursday Night Football. 49ers, Seahawks in Seattle. That's going to be a hell of a game. But I'm going to leave it there. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments on my Power Rankings video. I'm going to say 2 things before I head out. The butt counts. I'm going to catch you guys on the flip side.